Hello and welcome to Thursday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic. I'm clutching my glasses because I just changed them. I had the wrong glasses on. And a puzzle that actually looks completely terrifying to me. I'm fairly confident in saying now that you're never going to see this video. If you are watching it, then I'm quite surprised. The puzzle on the screen is called Fillomino 77. I have read the rules. It's by Myxo, and the rules are really unlike anything I've ever done on the channel before. Well, I mean, the other reason to be very scared of this is not just that it's an unusual rule set. Nobody has managed to solve this. Our testers, I think Mark had a look at it and didn't get on with it very well. But it's been recommended to us a couple of times by people we really trust, and Mark says that it's worth me having a crack at, and not to spend too long on it, but if I could get it done, it would be good. So that is what I'm going to try and do, and we'll see how I go. I mean, Myxo, I think we're lucky in the world of Cracking the Cryptic and Sudoku generally. There are some minds that we get to interact with where those minds are just staggeringly brilliant, and I think that Myxo is one such character, and the reason I say that is puzzles like this one. This was the last Myxo puzzle I did. It nearly doesn't fit on the screen, but I'm sure you'll remember it if you did try or watch the video about this puzzle. It was called Prison Break, and it features this extraordinary geometry in the middle of the grid, and I remember solving that, and that was an absolutely amazing puzzle. And this one might be amazing if I can manage to do it. Anyway, we'll get to the rules of this. It is basically a Fillomino, but it's got these diagonals which have to be like the red. I'll just tell you, the red die. If you know Fillomino rules, you'll be fine with the Fillomino part of it. I will read the rules properly in a minute, but the red question marks, the total of the digits along the red question marks is 77, and on the white question marks, it doesn't give a total. It just says there cannot be more than 5 regions of size 1, and that's it. I mean, it's just, I mean, it's baffling. I've got no idea what's going on, but anyway, that's going to be the puzzle that we attempt in the video in a moment or two's time. What else can I tell you about? Well, let's start with the fact that we are closing in slowly on the closing date for our Patreon reward for August. Tennis Anyone, which is mainly Glum Hippo's work, and has been absolutely adored by those of you who've attempted it. So if you are a patron and you haven't had a chance to have a go at it yet, it's just 6 puzzles in the Sudoku hunt, and you could definitely get them done in the next few days and be in with a chance to win the competition. So do have a go. I can tell you the feedback we've had on it has been great, so it'll be time well spent. And the other thing I've got to do is to read some birthday messages out, so let me do that. I'm going to start with Havana. Now, I'm late for your birthday, Havana. I'm really sorry. But your Uncle David, who is none other than David Ratner, many of you will know David Ratner, one of our most auspicious commenters and viewers. Well, David wanted to wish you, well, a happy birthday, but also all the best with your Masters program, which I know is starting soon. So let me echo those thoughts. Jake, you've turned 29. I'm not sure if I'm late with that one or not. But your friend Jaden wrote to us and said that you watch every day and try a lot of the puzzles. So Jake, happy birthday. I hope you had chocolate cake. Rodrigo, I know I'm a bit late with this one as well. You turned 19 down there in Portugal, and I know this because your girlfriend Anna wrote to us. I think it's Anna. It could be Anna, I suppose. No, I think Anna. Yeah, I think Anna. Anyway, Portugal is a country I love. In fact, I did have a week's holiday there earlier in this summer, just a little bit north of Lisbon on the coast. It was really very nice indeed. So I love Portugal. And Rodrigo, I hope you had a great birthday. then Soren, you've turned 32. And apparently you like being my friend who knows the secret. Well, Soren, you're the sort of guy I like. That is good to hear. And basically the reason I'm saying happy birthday, Soren, is that your girlfriend Sarah wrote to me and told me all about you. So, Soren, I hope you have chocolate cake too. And then twins, Tonya and Tasha, who turned 44 a few days ago. Started watching during COVID, and apparently Tasha knows exactly what she doesn't like and will complain loudly if there is something she doesn't like. But Tonya has never heard Tasha say anything negative during a Cracking the Cryptic video, and apparently Tasha even chuckles occasionally. And that is apparently, the epitome of high praise in the Tonya and Tasha household. So, Tonya and Tasha, happy 44th birthday, and I hope you had a cake as well. And that's all the messages. Right, I will probably have to read those out again later, once I can't do this puzzle. But let me read you the rules of Fillomino 77 by Myxo, and we can at least try this together. Whoever's put this in the software has done a dramatically amazing job with these startling question marks outside the grid. So we're told normal Fillomino rules apply, i.e. divide the grid along grid lines into regions. Write the size of its region into each cell. Okay, so this 4 is part of a region of size 4. In other words, that would be a completely legitimate way, I think, of creating a region. It doesn't have to be a square, obviously. It could be a line. There we go. So those would be 2 ways of making a region of size 4. No 2 orthogonally adjacent regions can have the same size. So let's make this a 4 region. Let's colour it in. There we go. And let's say that we worked out, let's say we found these 3 squares were also 4s. Well, what we couldn't do now is complete this 4 with this cell, or indeed this cell, because that will connect orthogonally 2 regions of the same size. Orthogonally means they share an edge, and that's not allowed in Fillomino. So we have to make sure in placing the final 4 of orange, it doesn't impinge or touch this one. It can touch it diagonally. That is not an orthogonal connection. So that would be fine. But we can't have an orthogonal connection between 2 similarly sized regions. And then we've just got this thing. The total sum of the numbers on the diagonals indicated by red question marks is 77. So once we've filled in all of the digits in all of the regions, we're going to this diagonal that these cells that I'm drawing now. Let's do them all. Though it is literally, that's the whole thing. It's like a checkerboard basically. So the whole checkerboard here, let's make it red. Those digits in this puzzle sum to 77. I'm just looking at that thinking, that's so peculiar. I mean, it's almost worth providing a checkerboard grid, isn't it? That's why I'm checking the rules. I'm sort of almost wondering whether I've misunderstood that. The total sum of the numbers on the diagonals indicated by the red question marks is 77. You could almost have no question marks outside the grid, have a checkerboard grid and just say that the red squares add to 77. The diagonals indicated by the white question marks cannot contain more than 5 regions of size 1 in total, but they may contain less. I mean, this is just, it's weird. So the white squares in the puzzle are limited only in the sense that I can't put too many tiny regions in them. So if I could do that. If all of those were 1s, then the rest of the white squares could not be 1s in this puzzle, is how I understand that to work. And that's it. That is literally all the rules. Do have a go. The way to play is to click the link under the video as usual. But now I get to play let's get cracking. I'm actually tempted to leave the red checkerboarding in, because at least I can see that. Now, how on earth do we get to grips with this? The total sum of the numbers on the red diagonal, so the red squares in this puzzle add up to 77. Is that a surprising number? How many red squares are there? There are, I want to say there are 40. Is that correct? Or no, I'm not sure. How big is this grid? I thought it was 9 by 9. It is 9 by 9. 4, so we've got to have that. Yeah, so it is 40, isn't it? Or am I going completely crazy? I don't think I am. I've got 9 times 4 plus 4 is how I'm doing that. So I've got those squares, that's 9. That pattern repeats 4 times, and then this is left over. So I've got 40 red squares, and they have to add up to 77. Right, so they're all quite little. That is what we've just learned. We've got a 5 in one of them. So the average value of a red square is just shy of 2. Okay. Sorry, and the reason I'm sort of stuttering is that I don't understand how I'm meant to even start this, actually. The diagonals indicated by the white question marks cannot contain more than 5 regions of size 1 in total. So if we did have... Oh, nowhere... Oh, I see. When I did the ones earlier, I didn't... Obviously I can't make this a 1. I don't know if I messed that up earlier, or maybe I put 1s in red squares or something. But those could all be 1s, couldn't they? So let's put 5 1s into white. And now we're told, so how many white squares? Well, there are 81 squares in a Sudoku. So if there are 40 red squares, there are 41 white squares, of which 5 maximum can be 1s, which means 36 white squares are at least 2s. And 36 times 2 is 72. Now that feels incredibly constrained then to me. Because if I put a 2 in the corner of the grid, if I put any digit in white that is not 1, then that digit will hit a red square. Because obviously to grow this 2, it has to grow into a red square. And that's the same for any white square. If any white square is not a 1, it will grow and take at least 1 red square. And so there are at least 72's worth of digits. And that's if, hang on, that's if my 36 white squares only contain 2 each time. Which is, so that would literally be, we've got 1s into these squares and we put 2 into every other white square, which I'm sure that won't work. I mean, if you make all of those 2, I suppose you can put 1 in the... No, you can't. No, you could. Yes, you could put 1 in the middle, but these, once that grows, it'll grow into a 2. So you can't just populate this grid with loads and loads of 2s in white. But even if you did... Even if you did, you'd take 72's, you'd have to put, because when this 2 grows it hits a red, and when the other 2, when whichever other 2 you put in the grid, that 2, when that grows it's going to hit a red. Every 2 in the grid is going to contribute its own value to red. So the 36 cells in white that are at least 2 are definitely contributing at least 72's worth of digits to red just because they exist. And that only means we've got 5 degrees of freedom from the absolute minimum. And that's not even taking into account the fact that you've got things like 5s and 4s in the grid already in red. It almost feels impossible, actually. It almost feels impossible. Because obviously this 5 is not a 2. So that's using up 3 degrees of freedom. Every 3 is using up. I'm thinking about degrees of freedom versus the absolute minimum. 72 versus 77. It makes me think you've got 5 degrees of freedom. But the 5 in the grid will use up 3 degrees of freedom. This 5 has to grow. It has to grow. That 5, okay, that 5 could only take one more red. If it took that one and then all of those were 5s, just bear with me while I think about this. Then white is a big number. These contribute 20 to white, but we don't care about, we're not told anything about the total size of white. The total size of red that's contributed by the fact there is a 5 white in the grid is at least 5. Oh yeah, okay, so alright, so I'm now thinking that might be better than lots of 2s. Is that the point? I'm so sorry, this is very clear to you. You're a better man than I am, Gunga Din. No, the reason I'm just wondering about this is that how do I improve on no, this is no good. Even this is no, in fact this is definitely no good. Because what we could think of this in terms of golf, actually, can't we? I don't know why my mind's gone to golf, but the way I'm suddenly seeing that cross pattern in the grid is that it has a par of 5. It's like a par 5. What I mean by that is that the red 5 in the grid it only goes into one red square. So you manage to fill 5's worth of the grid for a red count of 5. And that, if you manage to do that everywhere in the grid, so let's say you had a 3 here and you only put the 3, you didn't allow the 3 to go into any other red square, so you didn't make the 3 do that, then you just did that, that would have a par of 3 because you've managed to fill 3 cells of the grid, but your contribution to the red diagonals is only 3, it's itself. And that would, the reason this doesn't work is that even if you achieve that, which is super efficient, it's super efficient because you could build this 5, well this 5 actually, let me just show you. You could build this 5 like that. Now that has contributed 15 to red for the price of 5 digits. But the reason that this is an even bigger problem is even if you do it in a super efficient way, like that, then you're still going to get to 81. Because this number, whatever you put in the red square, is counting the number of squares that region includes. So the absolute best you can do, this is weird. I don't understand. So the best you can do is 81. The best you can do is 81, and 81 is bigger than 77. Am I missing a trick there? If I put any shape in this grid, if I put any shape at all, the par, I mean, it's not. It's like an awesome eagle. It's like a double eagle or an albatross. Because if you only put one red square in the shape in the region, that red square will contain a digit equal to the size of the region. So if you tessellate the grid with that pattern, all of the red squares will add up to 81. But if you allow any single shape within the 9x9 grid, any single region, to have two red squares in it, then you get the multiplier effect. And that's going to break the 81 by even more. So if, for example, we take that square out and make that shape there, you've got 10. That has contributed 10 to red. And it's populated only 5 cells of the grid. So you're way ahead, you're way higher than 81. So something I don't get, isn't there? So there's got to be a way of filling a shape in the puzzle. There's got to be a shape that has a number in it, that beats the par, there has got to be a shape that contributes less to red. Yeah, it's right. So this is the ones in white. This is the white ones, isn't it? Right. Because the white one reduces the par for the grid from 81. Right. Yes, right. Okay, I do not know if anyone's following me, or I'm just raving like a lunatic here. But let's look at this cell. And let's think about the effect of a white 1 on the par of red. Because this 1 is using up one of the cells of the grid. And it doesn't cost anything in terms of red digits. So in other words, the par for the grid, when you put a 1 in the grid, a white 1 in the grid, the par for the grid reduces to 80. Because now, but it's true, right. So it's true to say, what I said at the start, well, not start, after a bit of rambling, was correct, which is that the optimum shape you can create, the optimum red shape, this is so hard to explain, but I can sort of see it now. The optimum disposition of any region in this Fillomino will be to have as few red cells in it as possible. Because if you can limit it to one red cell, then you can meet the par for the shape. So if this 4, if that 4 did that, for example, it's taken 4 cells up for the cost of 4. And if we achieve that everywhere, we would get to 81 for the grid. But by including a 1 here, we can reduce the overall par for the grid to 80, because this This is almost just cancelled out of the grid. It doesn't exist in the tessellating pattern that we now need to include in the red cells overall. And that's going to reduce. So by sprinkling ones around the grid, that suggests, and you can have 5 ones, that you could reduce the par to 76. But if you reduce the par to 76, so you include 5 ones, what's that doing? So then you need ooh, I'm not even sure you can do that. It's so stupid. I sometimes feel in these videos like, honestly, people could get me committed just by showing them to people. If I reduce the path, of the grid to 76, so if I do something like that, I have a load of sprinkling of ones in the grid in white. So now the best I can ever do with the reds is 76. But I have to achieve 77. How do I do that? That's the simple question I'm trying to grapple with. Because I need to construct a region in the puzzle where the count of the reds is 1 higher than the size of the region. So a 2 in red always has a natural par of 2, because it just grows, doesn't it? So it always has 1 red, always has 1 white, and it's always in a size 2 region, so it's just a very balanced way of presenting itself. But a 3 region is a different animal altogether, because a 3 region has to decide what its final cell is. What do I mean by that? Well, I mean it's going to be balanced for its first 2 cells, because this cell will obviously, however we grow this cell, it goes into a red cell, so it's balanced. But its next cell is going to upset the balance. It's either going to be efficient if you put it in a white cell like that, in which case we have achieved a par for this region. It's contributed 3 to red, and it's used 3 cells of the grid. So that's not getting us from 76 to 77, is it? That's getting us from 76 to 76. But if I do this instead, it's what's that doing? That's upped by 3. So now the par was 76 if I achieved balance with everything. But I definitely haven't achieved balance, because this region has 6 worth of reds for only 3 cells. So that's throwing me up to 79 in terms of the par, but I have to get to 77, so I need to put more white cells in the white 1 cells in the grid, and I can't. I'm not actually sure about that. Is it getting me from 76 to 79, or is it getting me from 76 to 78? Well, it doesn't matter either way. Whatever it's doing, I haven't got any white cells left to create balance with. I can't do it. I cannot do it. So I think, I mean, this is evil if this is right, though. Because it's evil in the sense that Myxo has introduced a variable which is allowing us to have 5 regions of size 1, which we're not going to take advantage of. because we can't. Because if we did have 5 regions of size 1, we can't correct the count. We can't have a region. Because of the way, yeah, I mean, obviously, by the way, I mean, I hope it's clear. If we have regions that are bigger than size 3, it's a worse problem. I mean, look at this 4 region here. Imagine I did that. Well, that's now got 8 worth of reds for the price of 4 digits. So that's even worse than having 6 worth of reds for the price of 3 digits. You know, I need to exquisitely increase the value of red. I need to have a size 4 region that has a red count of 5. That's what you need to do if you're going to have 5 white ones in the grid. So I don't think you can do that. I think you've got to have 4 white ones in the grid and then achieve par with everything else. Now, is that the only way? I don't think there's another way of doing it. It's hard enough. It's really hard to get to 77. Because even if you had no white ones in the grid, the best you could ever do is 81. That's the best you could ever do. And every one that you introduce in white drops that out of being available for the red count. So then the par reduces to 80, to 79, to 78, to 77. By using 77 would only be possible if you used 4 white ones. And we've worked, yeah, this is fine. And so if you introduce a 5th white one, it doesn't work, because then you need to increase the par. You need to have a region in red. No, that's inaccurate nomenclature. You need to have a region that has a red count that is exactly 1 higher than the number of cells it contains, and there is no situation where you can do that in this puzzle. 2s are totally balanced, whatever you do with them. A 3 which has 2 reds has 3 more counts in red, not 1 more count in red, than it has cells. And everything bigger than that is worse. So there we go. Right, I have at least understood after 33 minutes of rambling what I have to do, I think, to solve this puzzle. Well, let's just pause here because I still might not be able to do it. But let's pause here and just think about the mind of Myxo. This is not normal. This is not normal behaviour, Myxo. To sit in your tower studying the world and thinking, I know what I'm going to do today. I'm going to make a Fillomino with a checkerboard pattern, and I've worked out that the maximum, or the minimum I should say, the minimum count on the internal checkerboard is 77 if you allow 4 ones in whites. And I could set a puzzle using this. I don't know how you have these ideas. I'm glad you did, though. I am glad you did. Right, so where are we? We have to put 4 white ones in this puzzle. I mean, how on earth are we ever going to know where they go? And we have to include... And then on every other region... This might be how we get started. On every other region, we have to achieve a very efficient path. Yeah, okay, I see. Yes. So, for example, the 5 at the top of the grid. This 5 needs to grow. But when it grows, it must grow into a position where no more reds are going to be taken in this 5 region, because we need to achieve balance. We need this 5 region to have a red 5 in it, and that's it. Everything else is white. So the only way I think that's doable is like that. So I'm going to claim, oh, hang on, what do I want to use? I want to use something that I can see. There we go. I'm going to claim that that is a forced region in this puzzle. I can do that region, I can do that region. The 2 regions can't hit one another. Now, yes, the 4 region at the bottom needs to have all white cells in it, doesn't it? And I think there's only one way of doing that. So that region is perfected in the sense that it achieves it achieves the best it can in terms of disposition of whites and reds. Yeah, okay, and this 5 in the grid has had its 5 in red, so it needs to have everything else in white, and I can do that, and I get another shape in the grid. And now my 2 shape has to drop down here because it can't go anywhere else. Yeah, and this is where I'm starting to understand the puzzle a bit now. What is that region? And that's a 1. I'm confident that that's a 1, because how could it be anything else? It can't be 2, it would touch another 2 region. If it was 3, that 3 region we build from here would take 2 red cells in it, and we know we cannot do that. We simply cannot do that. We don't have enough white 1s at our disposal to allow us to do that. So that's got to be a 1. Now, what about that one? That also has to be a 1 by exactly the same logic. That one, does that have to be a 1? That's less cul-de-sac, so I'm just a bit less sure about that. No, that doesn't have to be a 1, because that could be a 3 like that, and that would be a perfect. That's a perfected region. It's got a count of 3, and its red cell is a 3, and doesn't seem to be broken. So okay, so we can hypothecate this off. Hypothecate this off. Can we do this 3? That 3 can't go to there. So this cell is a 1 or a 2. Ah, no. Right, sorry. I see. Yes, I have to look at this cell, don't I? Because this has got its red digit. So everything else in this one's region is white, and that tells us its disposition. Sorry. Yeah, that's actually more obvious than I thought. Now that seems to leave a white. Sorry, a red 1 cell behind. Now, is that a red 1 cell? If it wasn't... No, you see, that's different. That could be a 2. If that's a 2, it's balanced. It's got 2 cells in it, and its red count is 2. This square's a 2, so this would then be forced downwards, which is balanced, and those 2 squares could be 1. So we don't know what that is, I don't think. And I think it's 1 or 2. It definitely can't be 3. And it can't be 4, because it would have to take a second red cell. It would take this red cell, and we couldn't stop it taking another one. Right, now 4 here. So this one and this one have both had their red cell. So this one needs to take 3 more white cells, which is going to be 3 of those 4 cells. I don't know. How am I meant to know what that means? No, I was about to say, well, maybe it can't be those 2, because that would break this cell, but that doesn't break this cell, because this cell is a 3, and it has to have 2 whites with it. But even if those 2 were both 4s, these 2 could both be 3s. Oh, bother. Right, so now I'm stuck again. I am stuck, but at least I've got hope. It's always the hope that gets you, though. Right. That's an interesting thought. If you have a red cell that touches a 2... Ah, no, my thought doesn't work. My thought is instantly broken. I suddenly realised I was thinking maybe this can't be anything but 1, but I've just seen it could be 3. If that's a 3, it could go like that, and that's fine. And then that could be 1 or 2. Ah, this is really hard. This is still really hard. I have a feeling that I've not understood something else. So this, well, that's always going to get a red 2. This is always going to get a second white 2. That square, is that somehow... This square might be interesting, actually. That square is not 1, it sees 1, it's not 2. So it's at least 3. And if it's 3, it's one of those two shapes, because it's only allowed 1 red. If it's 4... Actually, let me think about that. How could that be 4? If it's 4, those two are both 4. Oh, no, it can be 4. Sorry, I was suddenly thinking it's broken. It's not. That could be it. Look, that's got 1 red, so it's perfected. Ah! Right, okay, it can't be 5. It would hit something, and it can't be 6. I am confident this can't be 6, because I cannot see how, if that's a 6... how we don't take another red cell in the shape. We would take another red cell because we could do all of those with 6, and then the next cell is red, and that's going to put 12's worth of red at least in a 6-cell shape, which totally blows the mathematics of the grid. So this square is a 3 or a 4, which means this square is the 3 or a 4, and these are trussed up together in a little parcel. I don't know what to do. Let me revisit my thinking. Sorry, I think I've missed a trick here. I've got to put 4 white. It's not. I don't think it's going to be about where the white. I suppose that can't be a white 1. I can suddenly see, because that would put a red 1 next to it. Ah, no, okay, all right. I am prepared to think about that. I was going to say I didn't think it could possibly be about where the white 1s have to be placed, because there didn't seem to be any restriction. But suddenly I see that these 2 red 1s are restricting very much where you could put a white 1. You could obviously never put... Like, there are loads of cells I'm suddenly seeing that can't be white 1s. So let's... How should we do this? Let's fill in every single white cell in the grid now. Yeah, let's make all of these cells that are white and haven't got a digit in them. We'll make these yellow. Oh, hang on. No, it's red-green colourblind. I have to be... so I think maybe yellow. I'll make them yellow. I hope that's okay. And I was just going to start ticking off the ones that can't be 1s. So all of those can't be 1s. If that's a 1, then that would be a 1, and those 1s would touch each other, so that's not a 1. This can't be a 1, because we said that would be a 1. This can't be a 1, it's touching another 1. Oh, okay, so no, this is still far too many cells, isn't it? That's a 1. If you put 1 in the grid and create a cul-de-sac, yeah, is that true? Okay, I just want to test something here. If that's a 1, is it true? And it might not be, but I'm going to ask the question. I think it is true, actually. Is it true that all 3 of those cells are now forced to be 2s? The reason I say that is, let's look at, just to study this one. This is obviously a cul-de-sac cell, and it begins a region with a red cell. So if this was not a 2, it would be let's say it's a 3 then. And in being 3, it's always going to touch 2 red cells, which it cannot do. So that has to be 2, that has to be 2, and that has to be 2. But now that cell's broke. Right, okay, here's, right, I can do this. I don't think I need that. If that's, oopsie, if this is forced to be a 2, it's forced to be that. And what's this shape now? It can't be anything. That's not even true. It can be. Oh no. Well, okay, no, I'm just wrong. Well, there is another way of stopping this being a 1, but I have to really work hard to do it. I was thinking again that this cell is now broken, but it's not, because it could be the silly elbow shaped 3, which does now have 2 whites in it, and that's perfected. That's perfected. And the only right, the reason this doesn't work, actually, then I will say this is not a 1, because that would force those 2 to be 2, and then this cell really is broken. Because this cell, what's it going to be? It can't be 1 or 2, so it's at least 3. That's its second cell, and now it mustn't go into another red cell, and it would do. So that's very complicated, but that at least does remove 1 as a possibility for this cell. Now if that's no. I thought I could get rid of 1 from this one using a similar trick, but I don't think I can. I think if that's a 1, that is a 2. And I thought that was going to break this one or this one, but I'm not sure that it does, actually. This is really difficult. It's surprising, actually, as well, because like having or working out a way to even start to approach the puzzle was difficult, and now I'm still in a bit of trouble. How could that be a 1, actually? Doesn't that make this cell impossible? Yeah, that's very clear. That is not a 1. If that's a 1, this cell is not 1 or 2, so it's 3 at least, and it's going to bump into a second red cell. So that square we can eliminate 1 from. Now, what about that one? That's going to create a 2 here. 1. Oh, that's square. Oh no, that could be a 2. Oh no. So if this is a 1, you'd have to go 2, 2. This, no, that doesn't work. Alright, we don't need this 2 to prove this one doesn't work. If that's a 1, because you have to put 2 here to avoid taking a second red cell in this one's region, this is now broken. Because it's not 1, it's not 2, so it's at least 3, and it's going to bump into another red. Wow, this is so hard. Alright, so this is 1 now. Can this be 1? And I'm going to say no, because surely that makes this... Oh no, the elbow... It's so annoying. The elbow 3 is a possibility, if that's a 1. I was going to say, surely that makes those 2 both 2s, and that I thought was going to give me a problem here, which I think is true. I mean, if we do go like that, that is broken. Because how do you split this up? You could make both of those 1s, but then this is a 1, and that's not going to work. And if I make all of those 3s, I have not got a perfected region. So that would be broken, but what I was overlooking is that silly old shape with that. Or indeed, that silly old shape with that. Ah, Bobbin's face. Right, okay, so we can't rule out that one. What about that one? That feels like it's going to run into trouble. Yes, oh, that's easy. That one's easier. If that's a 1, that can't be 1, obviously. It can't be 2, because it will bump into this. Therefore, it's a bigger number, but its third cell is going to be another red cell. It's going to take those 2, and the next cell is red. So that doesn't work. So that's therefore also out. What about that one? Does that break this one? Let's see. If that's 1, that's got to be double 2. What's this one now? That could be 1 again. That one. Ah, no, that doesn't. Right. So it's all about these little cul-de-sacs with 1s and 2s. But some of them you can wheedle your way out of by doing like elbowy 3s. But this one is broken, I think, because if you make that 1, you make this 2, and this cell here has to start with at least 3. And again, its third cell is going to be red and deperfect the region. So that cell's not 1. What about that one? If that's 1, well, it's very hard to see what restriction that introduces, actually, isn't it? I don't know how to think about this one. If that's a 1, don't know. What about if that's a 1? If that's a 1, this 2 would be finished. This would... Ah, that's interesting. If that's a 1, that's a 2, and that's a 3, because it couldn't be a 4, because it would hit a second red. So you'd go 1, 2, 3 up the diagonal. That's... Well, it's possible, is the problem. What about if that's a 1? Then that would be a 2. Ah, yeah. Okay, but when you interfere with the ability of both of these to be in this shape, this is always becoming a 3. What about if that's a 1? Then this is a 3 again, and that's a 2. So if there is a 1 in one of those 3 cells, these 3 cells are a 1, 2, 3 triple, is I think what I'm concluding there. It doesn't feel like this one can be a 1 to me. Let me just think about this again. If this is a 1, this has to be a 2. Then this... Oh, see, no, that can be 1 again now. Ah! That one could be 1 again. This is so frustrating. Okay, what are we down to? We're down to 9. I've got 9 yellows in the grid, and I've got to get... How many was it? Was it 5 or 4? It was 81 to 77. 4. I've got to get 4... Oh, okay, well that's quite interesting actually for that. I suddenly thought about that. I can only put 1, 1 in those. Because I said that if there was a 1 in these, they had to be a 1, 2, 3 triple. So actually, okay, so those 5 yellow cells can have a maximum of 3 1s in them. Which means there is a maximum of 3 1s. There's got to be a 1 up here. Now, so the big breakthrough would be if we can prove there's only 1 1 in these cells. Now, I've no idea why that would be the case. Although I will say that 4. Yeah, this 4 is using up 3 of these cells, so it's eating up 1 of these at least. Oh, no, no, no. Right, hang on. There is something going on here. Because this 4... If the 4 takes those two cells, then this 3 would have to take those two cells, because it needs to have... It can't take any more red cells. So if the 4 takes those two, the 3 takes these two, and that's going to leave 2 of these cells that could be 1s. If the 4 doesn't take these two, I can't. What about if the 3 took those two and didn't interfere with yellow at all? If the 3 took those two, well, then the 4 would take those 3, but this could still be a 1. And what about if we put 1 in the corner? 1 in the corner, nobody puts 1 in the corner. I don't know. I don't know if that's a problem or not. If that... Oh, hang on. If you do that, neither of these squares... Yeah, they both have to be 2s, don't they? Oh, that's interesting. So you're going to get that... Yeah. Hang on. I should have seen this before. Right. Down here, when I put 1 here, my first reaction was that I had to do that. But then I realised I could do that or that. Now, why isn't the same true here? Well, it's quite interesting, because the elbowed 3, which I viewed as a possibility here, doesn't work up here, because the elbowed 3, which has the 2 whites and the 1 red in it, which is what we need, always hits this 3 in a bad way. So the only options for this are going to be double 2, and then they can't touch each other. Now, that doesn't work. You can't fill this 4 and this 3 in now, because the 4 has to take all of those to be perfected, and the 3 has to take a second red. This is huge. This is huge, because that means there's no 1 in the corner, and if there's no 1 in the corner, all I've got to prove now is that I can't have 2 1s in that string of yellows, and I bet you I can't, because I think if I have 2 yellows, sorry, if I have 2 1s in these cells, then, well, those 2 clearly can't be 1s, because then the 4's impossible. So I need 3 whites for my 4. So these 2 can't both be 1s. If those 2 were 1s, the 3 could be made, but then the 4 couldn't be, so that's impossible. So the only thing left is whether those 2 can both be 1s, and that doesn't work, because the 4 would look like that, there'd be a 1 here, and the 3 is impossible. So there is 1 1 as a maximum in those 3 cells. There is 1 1 as a maximum in those 3 cells, and those 2 cells are 1. And that's the 4 1s that we need in the puzzle. There we go. I don't know if that's... Well, it must help a bit. Let's ring them so we can feel good about ourselves. Didn't get a 3 in the corner. Oh, we did get a 3 in the corner there. I didn't even notice it. I didn't notice it. Isn't that peculiar? Did it actually go off? Hang on. No. No, it didn't. That's not my fault then. Why is why is there not a... Why is it not going off? Am I going... If I put 1 in that corner... I'm genuinely perplexed. I don't understand. Anyway, it's not going off. Right, anyway, what does this all mean? was about to say I don't know, but I think we do know something about this, because didn't I work out that didn't work? I did work out that didn't work. So this is a 2-3 pair. One of these is an elbow E3 and the other is a 2. Okay, and that's interesting, because these two cells therefore have to form a W pentomino in some way. It depends how they're broken down, because we've got to. They can't both be 2. One of them is a 3. The 3 will take 2 whites. The 2 will take just its balance. So these two squares have to both be 1s because they've been hived off. Right, so this digit is 1 or 2, depending on whether this... right, so by uniqueness we now know this 2 is coming down here. That's quite cool, that's really quality. I won't use it because I don't like to rely on uniqueness, but I can see that's a 2. Because if this wasn't a 2, imagine it was a 1, how would we ever tell how these 5 cells were disposed in the puzzle? You couldn't tell whether the 3 did that or the 3 did that. Both would work. There's no problem with them touching other regions. The only way a problem is introduced is if that is 2. Because if that is 2 now, this can't be a 2 vertically. That has to be a 3, which means that you're going to get that shape. And that's what's going to happen in the puzzle. But somehow we have to prove it. I've got no idea how we do that, but that is what's going to happen. This square, I'm going to claim, is going to be a 2 in the finished grid. Right. Now, didn't I think... I did think... Oh, yeah. Right, look. That can't be 4 anymore. Because I think I said those are a 1, 2, 3 triple. One of these is a 2. Yeah, and so if this was 4... you couldn't put a 1 in here, and if you can't put a 1 in here because you can't put 2 1s up there, you couldn't put 4 1s in the grid. So this is 3. So if that's the 2, this is the 3, this is the 1. I don't know if it's worth sort of pencil mark this. It might be. If that's the 2, that's the 1, that's the 3. If that's the 2, we don't know, I don't think. These are arbitrary. We wouldn't know the order. I'm not sure. Okay, maybe that wasn't the way to think about this. Okay. Can that be 1, actually? If that's 1, what's this? That's then 2. What's this? That's then 1 again, isn't it? And then this is broken in the corner. This is so complicated. But that doesn't work. If that's 1, this has to be 2, because we must only have 1 red cell in it. This is now looking very dicey, but could be a 1, because it can't be a 3. It would put 2 red cells in it. So it's a 1, and then that cell's got no good option. It can't be 1, and it can't be 2. It'll hit itself. So actually, this is 2, which means this is not 2. These are a 1-3 pair. But at least we get to grow that region out. Now, that means this is 1, because if it wasn't 1, it would touch a third, its third cell would be red, and it would break, so that's a 1. Goodness only knows how we fill this bottom bit in. Well, I can see there are ways, actually. That could be a 1, and that could be a 3. I can see that straight away, but that... I mean, I suppose it doesn't work the other way, actually. Maybe that's what it has to be. That's very interesting, if that's right. Oh no, right, I've got a different way of seeing it. What is that? Well, it's not 1 and it's not 2, because that's going to break Fillomino rules. And if it's 4, how could we put only 1 red cell in it? We couldn't. So the only thing that can be is 3, and the only way to put one red cell in it is like that. So I think we've got to force that shape. And I'm guessing that now I can fill the bottom with 1 here and 2 here. And both of those are balanced. This is quite extraordinary. Now this square's got to be a 2, because it can't be a 1 and it can't be a 3, and it starts with a red. So that's all forced. Well, that must mean, I want to say this has now got to be a 1. Because if this isn't a 1, what is it? Well, it can't be a 3. Oh, no, it can't be a 3, because it's only got allowed to have 1 red in it. So it would have to be that 3, which would be touching this 3. So it's not a 3. And if it's anything bigger than 3, it's going to have 2 reds in it. So that is a 1. And if that's a 1, this is not a 1, and that loses its yellowification. Good Lord. Oh, I am absolutely loving this. I'm just hoping I'll be able to actually finish it. Why is my phone buzzing at me as well? Oh, that doesn't look important. Right. So how do we do this? It feels like that cell's restricted to me. Because what is that? It's not 2 and it's not 3. So it could be 1. If it's not 1, it's 4. But if it's 4, I have to put 3 white cells with it, and they don't exist. So it is 1. And if that's 1, then we know that this little cell is not 1, so that's got to be 3. So that's created another new region for us here. And that's created another new region here for us. So we've actually found the one that we were looking for. It's there. 1, 2, 3, and one of these. This square now has to be a 2, because otherwise it's going to run into a second red. So that's a force pattern. That's surely got to be a 1 now. If that wasn't a 1, it would have 2 reds in it. So that doesn't work. So that's a 1. We're closing in on somehow resolving that this 2 is going to go down here. This square... I don't know, actually. Let me just think about this. If that is a... What do I think it's going to be a 2, actually. If it's a 1, why do we get into trouble? Well, yes, we do. It's very clear, isn't it? If that's a 1... Let me just show you. What on earth do we make this cell? Now we can't make it a 2 because its second cell is going to hit this 2. So we have to make it more than 2. And if it's a 3, it's going to take 2 red cells. So that's 2 by force. And now this is a 1 because it can't be a 2, or it would touch its own brand. That's exactly that. This cell's got exactly the same quality, and that has pushed the 2 down, which means this can't be a 2, so that's got to be a 3. That finishes off the uniqueness problem on this side of the grid. So this is all forced. This is forced. This square here can't be a 2 now, so must be a 1, or it would take 2 red cells. So that's another little win for the good guys. See, that one's more difficult, I think. That could be 1, 2, or 3. No, it couldn't be 3. That's 1 or 2. Its third cell would be red if it's a 3. These 2 squares. Oh, that one. This one here. What's that? Well, it's not 2 and it's not 1, so it must be 3. And how do we put only white cells in? If we've got to do that, that's going to be massive. That is going to be massive, because now this square's a 2. Because it can't be a 1, it certainly can. Basically, we just have to do 1s, 2s, and 3s wherever we can. That's what we're sort of discovering. I mean, what's this? It's got to be a 1. Can't be a 3. Oh, no, it can't be a 4, because it would have 2 red cells in it. So that is a 1. So this square has to be a 3. It can't be anything else. Don't know where its other cell is yet. One of these is a 1. Okay, yes, look. One of these is a 1. So these 2 must both be 4. Because if these were not 4, you couldn't put 3 white 4s around the red 4. So those are both 4, and this is a 1-4 pair. And we can fill in some of this shape at least. It's got to have that profile, which is finishing off our 3 look. Don't quite know what's going on there. Now that could be a 2. 2, 1, 1 looks quite good there, doesn't it? What about if that's a 1? 1, 1, 2. Oh, I don't know. I'm not sure. What if I get stuck now? What if this is a 1? What on earth is the value of this? Oh no, that can be 2 with 2 1s. Oh, that can work. Alright, if that's a 4, then this is a 1. Oh, that's it. Wow. Oh, it's very pretty actually. You just have to think about it the right way. Right, these 3 cells now need to be filled. But we've got the dreaded double red possibility, so it's not a 3. So this has to be a 2 and a 1. But where do we put the 1? We'll have to put the 1 in the corner, and then we can't make a 2. That's so clever. Wow. But why is it right this way round? Oh, I see. Because now I can split this into a 2 and a 1 without hitting the 1, if you see what I mean. I can make that the 1 and that a 2, and I've achieved a sensible way of counting. Wow, wow, wow. Now, hopefully, okay, so this is now not a 1. We know it's not a 3, it'll have 2 reds in it, so it's a 2. And that forces double 1. And you can bet your bottom dollar that I am going to be carefully counting. I am going to be carefully counting what I have in red here. But imagine that this works. This will be an absolute triumph for me. So we've got, what have we got there? We've got 10, 13 so far. 13, 17, 20. Okay, we should be able to remember that. 30, 38, 40, 47, 50, 53, 55, 60, 67, 70. It's not right, is it? No, it is right. It is. It's okay. It's okay because those 3, 1, 2, and 1 add up to 7. So it's 77. I've no idea if the software is going to understand this. Yes, it took me no time. Well, that's not true. Solve counter 7. That's not many. That doesn't surprise me at all. But I did manage to solve it, and for that I'm extremely grateful to my brain. Well done, brain. You surprised me. Oh my goodness, what an idea that is. I mean, that we just have to take a step back and admire Myxo, frankly. Myxo's brain has produced, it's a work of sublime genius. To have the idea that there is some sort of maximum value or minimum value of one colour on a chessboard Fillomino, and then to execute it like that so it has a unique solution, is completely and utterly brilliant. It is completely and utterly brilliant. I absolutely love that. I loved it now. I was feeling very nervous about it before, but now I love it. Yes, as with so many puzzles, your sort of the end result does colour somewhat how you feel about them. And had I been stuck as I was after about half an hour, and gone round in circles for another few hours on this, I would have probably felt differently about it. But it's amazing. It's amazing you can work out how to solve that. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. Fillomino 77, one of my favourite puzzles of the last few months, definitely. Myxo, take a bow, and thank you so much for watching. And we'll be back later with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.